Detectives, I need your help. I have a problem that only someone with your expertise can handle. I know of no one else who has spent hours and hours wasting away watching Netflix. Please, there's no one else.
Well, it's gonna cost you 24 dimes and a flashy smile.
Well, I think I can afford that much.
Well, Dollface, what exactly do you need?
I have a burning desire to find out how accurate is the Netflix show, The People vs. O.J. Simpson. It's been in my queue for so long, but I just don't know how it will influence me. Please, detectives, help me!
The People vs. O.J. Simpson is a unique take on true crime media. Instead of a collection of evidence and interviews, the audience watches an entire reenactment of the O.J. Simpson trial with behind-the-scenes looks at the defense, prosecution, and others affected by this crime.
This is a highly accurate show with few embellishments. However, they show a clear bias towards the prosecution, specifically with the portrayal of Marcia Clark.
But is it trustworthy?
I'd say so, sweetheart.
I just don't know. Convince me that this reenactment is worth trusting. I know the OJ case. I don't know this show.
Can you tell us what you know so we can bridge the gaps?
On June 12, 1994, in Brentwood, California, Nicole Brown Simpson and her lover, Ron Goldman, were found murdered in their estate while their 2 kids slept peacefully upstairs. The police went to her ex-husband O.J. Simpson's house to inform him. He was a famous actor and football player to boot. America loved him. However, when they got to the house, they found O.J., Ron, and Nicole's blood mixed across his driveway. He was put on trial for double homicide and then was later acquitted October 3rd, 1995. It is still to date one of America's most contentious cases, and as of yet, no murderer has been discovered.
The show begins by showing scenes of the Rodney King riots, putting the audience in the early 90s time frame. This is an important detail of the show because it makes the audience realize that racial tensions in LA were a huge part of daily life.
Cue the discovery of the body. A neighbor of Nicole Brown Simpson notices a dog with blood on its paws as they walk past their house.
This is actually a great example of how the show cuts corners. In actuality, the dog followed the neighbor home, and the dog then led the neighbors to the crime scene.
This does not impact their credibility. It's just an example of how they had to cut certain parts down to save time. The trial was 11 months. The show has 10 45-minute episodes. They take artistic license by taking out parts of the transcript and moving certain events around or happen slightly earlier or later so that there is a cohesive timeline.
Wait, so this isn't a documentary? I thought Netflix was all about documentaries. I thought there were other, better sites for TV shows.
This is a recreation of events surrounding O.J. Simpson case. It's not word for word. However, it is based on the book The Run of His Life by Jeffrey Tobin, a journalist who did extensive research, interviewed people involved, and even reported on the original trial himself.
There was a scene where the judge in the case, Lance Ito, shows Vanity Fair reporter Dominic Dunn an autographed picture from Arsenio Hall that he received simply for presiding over the case. However, that reporter was actually Jeffrey Tobin, the writer of the book.
But the point here is that they got very intimate details correct. The show itself is true to the people involved and the strong emotions contained in the situation.
You said the prosecution received more attention than the other groups. Well, I can tell you, sure as a swan can swim, that Marcia Clark and Chris Darden couldn't hold a candle to the dream team. Her hair, her clothes, her voice. So annoying. Honestly, I'm surprised they even gave her the case. This show sounds trashy. But isn't that just par for the course with Netflix?
That right there. What you just did is the opposite of the position the show takes. While in popular culture, Marcia Clark was universally hated. In the show, she is seen as almost a feminist icon. Time and time again, they show her overcoming sexism. People make fun of her haircut, of her clothes, but in the show, we really see Marcia powering through it to remain strong.
The audience also gets a glimpse at her personal life. She was dealing with not only a divorce, but also a legal battle involving primary custody for her 2 children. In fact, this is another part of the show that is extremely accurate. Marcia once had to leave court early to take care of her kids that night because she couldn't find a sitter. The judge granted recess for the day, but Marcia was endlessly ridiculed for it.
Also, when her nudes were leaked by her first ex-husband, she did cry in court because all eyes were on her for all the wrong reasons.
So, why did they focus in on Marcia so much? Would I come out of this believing that OJ was the one that did him dirty?
I would say no.
Sweetheart, the attention given to the prosecution was of a more personal nature. Marcia was a woman in a sexist court, and Chris Darden was a black man who seemed to be defending the corrupt, racist LAPD. The evidence presented in court was the evidence they put on the show. They didn't change anything to seem biased one way or another.
They presented the evidence fairly. Netflix picked a good show this time.
Well, we can't have that, can we? You can silence us, but you can never silence the truth.
This is a highly accurate show with very few embellishments, even with the clear bias towards the prosecution, especially Marcia Clark.
I would rather die than live in a world without Netflix.
I came here today for one reason. We can't have Netflix taking over the TV market. That's Hulu's game. If someone found out that Netflix had incredibly realistic true crime adaptations, it'd all be over. Hulu, we're about to ruin TV for you.